Hey Joe, how are you?
Good, how you doing, Srinath?
Excellent. Fun conference.
Yeah, it's been good being here at Prosper.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to this chat. Perhaps we should just introduce ourselves. I am Srinath Reddy, co-founder and CEO of IntentWise. At IntentWise, we are tackling two problems: advertising optimization and data automation and analytics. We've been doing this for about six and a half years. We are also an advanced partner with Amazon Ads.
Yeah.
Joe,
Yeah, and I'm Joe Schellerud, so co-founder and CEO of Ad Advance. We're a full-service advertising agency focusing on all things retail media and really got our start in the Amazon space overall.
and you were a seller before, right? Is that?
Yep. So I actually started as a seller about a decade ago. And so I started selling these organic chemistry molecular model kits. I'm a chemical engineer by training. And I started selling these on Amazon. And as I got into the space and was selling my own products, started really digging into Amazon ads, which then led to starting the agency and just trying to help out other sellers in the space.
You should probably just give us a little walk back on history on how it started and where it is at today.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so it has evolved quite a bit throughout the years. So when I got started, the main ad type was sponsored products. And at that time, we just had keyword targeting, we had auto and manual campaigns, so we didn't even have product targeting. Throughout the time, there's been new ad types that have been launched. So there's been sponsored brands that when I was first around, it was headline search ads. And then came sponsored display. And then there's this thing called Amazon DSP.
Yes.
And then there were a lot of other products like AMC, Amazon Attribution. And so what's been really fun is seeing the evolution of the space and how much control we now have over our advertising and how you can really utilize that as a brand trying to grow up on the platform. Yeah.
And I think when we're talking about ads, even at this conference, I mean, one of the questions we get is like, how do you get started?
Yeah.
And our point of view is, the fundamentals of advertising have remained the same, which is when you have a differentiated product and a product that is packaged well, which is it's called retail readiness, as we call it.
Yeah.
Amazon is advertising could be an amplifier on top of that, but those fundamentals and foundations have to be in place first. But I'll let you have a take at that question too.
Yeah. So if I'm looking at retail readiness, I mean, some key things that I'm looking at is like going through the pictures itself. So that's a key piece, and making sure that you have a solid first picture that shows up. Title optimization, making sure that you have really solid bullet points that really highlights the key features, differentiation, but also how you're going to utilize it. And then we have a ton of other tools now, like different content you can put in the product detail page itself. And so when we're looking to get going on ads, that's always the first thing that we look at is this product ready to advertise? And I'm sure you've probably seen this too. One mistake that I see new sellers making is really jumping into Amazon ads before they're truly ready in terms of retail readiness. And so that's one way where you want to make sure that your product is fully ready to go before you start investing in ads, because at that point, you want to invest your time and your money where it's going to make the most impact. And so I don't know, what's some other key things that you would see for like retail readiness as you're looking at different products?
It's interesting, right? Like when you think about Amazon advertising, the performance of ads is so interdependent with all other retail aspects of the business. So retail readiness, absolutely. I would also say I think maybe 3-4 years back, like starting with some auto campaigns, put your products there and, start with sponsor product auto campaigns and start to do some discovery of what searches are your products appearing for was a strategy when you get started.
Yeah.
But I think things have gotten a bit more sophisticated, right? So I don't think it's enough just to launch auto campaigns.
Yeah.
They are a useful campaign type, but upfront research around what keywords to go after, what products you can target or categories you can target. There's even audiences now. I know we'll talk more about Amazon Marketing Cloud in a moment.
Yeah.
I just think that the puck has moved in terms of the basics that have to be in order when you just get started with ads.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that one thing that's definitely changed from when I started selling is the level of complexity. And so what I would recommend for people who are just getting started with Amazon ads is just take it in pieces. And so you can build the base first, and then you can add on all these additional complexities after. And so if somebody comes up to us and they say, hey, I'm just getting going, I'm selling on the platform, where do I start with ads? We always point them to sponsored products. And it's great to start with auto campaigns, but then you can also layer in manual campaigns. And so we can look at different keyword and product targeting. And then if you want to add a little bit more complexity, now you can start looking at like different placement adjustments. And so you can optimize and apply a bid boost for like top of search compared to product page or rest of search. Sponsored products tends to take up about 70 to 80% of a typical budget. So if you're just looking to get going, this is a really good spot to start. After that, then you can start to layer in other tactics, like moving to sponsored brands is usually the next logical step. And then after that, you can go to a sponsored display and then start looking at other more advanced tools like Amazon's DSP and layer in a lot of insights that you can have from AMC. So what I would recommend is just make sure you take a layered approach, because it can be extremely overwhelming from the start just because we have so much control. But at the same time, like with that, yeah, as long as you just take it at a layered approach, start at the bottom of the funnel, it can be a great way to go to kind of simplify things down.
Perhaps a good segue, right, to talk about Amazon Marketing Cloud.
Yeah. How about you tell us, like, so explain Amazon Marketing Cloud for somebody who's not familiar with it. What is it? How is it used?
Yeah, you and I both spend quite a bit of time answering that question.
Yeah.
The way I describe Amazon Marketing Cloud for someone who may have just heard of it and has never used it is, think of it like, imagine a shopper's journey today, right? Whoever is shopping on Amazon, the path from search to purchase is fairly circuitous, and it could take multiple days. What's happening with Amazon Marketing Cloud is you have a rich set of signals at an individual shopper level being made available within Amazon Marketing Cloud. So you're talking about at an individual shopper level, impressions, clicks, conversions, add to carts, add to wish list, so on and so forth. So the simple way I describe Amazon Marketing Cloud, it's all the shoppers that are being exposed to your brand, plus all the events that they are experiencing.
Yeah.
Right? So for the first time, you can start to do things like, hey, what is that path to conversion? How is upper funnel and lower funnel connected?
Sure.
How many net new customers am I acquiring? Lots of interesting questions can now be answered that couldn't be answered before.
Yeah. I look at AMC as this really solid reporting platform where you can tie these different data sets together. And so if I look at Amazon's DSP, and we can get into a little bit more on what that is, but compared to like sponsored ads, AMC is the conduit that allows us to tie that information together. And then if I look at like outputs on what I'm getting from Amazon Marketing Cloud, typically it's going to be different reports that are generated, and all the data is anonymized that comes into it, and it's all aggregate information, but then what we can see is different trends with our ads. And so we can look at the typical customer shopping journey from upper funnel down to lower funnel to purchase. We can look at a lot of other cool metrics like new to brand, lifetime value. There's so many different pieces that you can pull out of it. And from there, it's just this one streamlined platform that brings in all these different data sources into it. And so if you look at AMC and somebody says, all right, I understand the basic platform itself, but how can I use it as a seller? Like, what's some common use cases that you see?
Yeah, no, great question. Again, a question that we both get all the time. The way I would frame it is, there's fundamentally two broad categories of use cases. Right? One is questions that couldn't be answered before.
Sure.
Let's call them insights. The other is custom audiences that you can create and target in a way that's not possible anywhere else, right? If you want to get better efficiency and in terms of achieving your goals with your ad spend, AMC has now become a must-have, let's call it, tool in your tool set.
Sure.
So in terms of specific use cases, it comes to insights, the path to conversion, path analysis, whether that is first touch attribution, last touch attribution, or
Yeah.
what is the overlap of sponsored ads and DSP. So path analysis, incrementality, how are ad exposed shoppers behaving differently from non-ad exposed shoppers.
Sure.
Even campaign optimization. I know you guys do a ton of work with DSP. Historically, like when you set frequency caps on your DSP campaign, like it was a bit of a, maybe it should be 8,
Sure.
right? But AMC actually tells you what it needs to be.
Yeah, yeah. It provides a lot of really great information that helps us make sure that we're getting the most efficient use of our ads.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, what it really helps us do is make sure we're showing the right ad to the right person at the right time, to make that ad spend as efficient as possible and most effective as possible. And as marketers, if we do our jobs well, these ads are also adding value to the people who are seeing those ads because they're applicable, they're interested in the products, and they really want to purchase.
I would just add that, like, again, the common question you get is what is so unique about this data set?
Yeah.
And I keep going back to, it's the only data set or signal where you have shopper level information.
Sure.
Right? Again, for the first time, you can actually make new to brand acquisition on a weekly, monthly basis an operating metric. Just like you look at sales
Sure.
and ad spend and ad sales, you can look at new to brand acquisition as an operating metric.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now there's another set of use cases which perhaps is the most actionable part of AMC, which is creating custom audiences. Hey, I want to go create a pool of audiences that are my subscribe and save purchasers, but I can now create a lookalike of that and target those people. Like, it's that type of stuff you can now do. And that's the other bucket.
Yeah, yeah. And I think one common question I get quite a bit is folks who are just used to bottom of funnel advertising.
Yeah.
And they'll say, okay, well, I've got my ROAS, my return on ad spend. And so they see my ad, they click it, and they purchase. So I know my return on advertising. So why would I need all these other tools when I can just look at ACOS or ROAS?
Yeah.
So what's your typical response there?
I mean, the way I would respond is actually share some stats on real use cases. And
Sure.
we have published this on the Amazon site as well. Like, we had a publishing company that had about 2,400 products. Turns out that like 11 or 12 of them were driving a lot more new to brand customers than the rest.
Okay.
So what did the seller do? They reallocated spend to deploy a lot more capital on those products, even though that hurt ROAS on those products.
Sure.
Because they really were going after new to brand acquisition.
Yeah.
So it's just this next layer of sophistication,
Yeah.
and ROAS has gotten us to a certain point.
Yeah.
But if you want to drive truly incremental growth, you'll have to go beyond it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's where a lot of the power from AMC really comes from, is as you get further up the funnel. And when we talk about the advertising funnel, bottom of funnel is somebody comes in, they know what they want to purchase, and they're just looking for the specific product. So they're very close to that purchase timeline. If we go further up the funnel, it's either introducing them to our brand, or even introducing them to our product as a whole. And if you're looking at just metrics like ROAS, measuring some of those upper funnel ads, it's not going to be a good reflection, because they're typically not going to get introduced to my brand and immediately purchase. It's going to take multiple touch points along the customer journey. And so this is where AMC, the power of it really starts to be unlocked, is now if I can see the true return on advertising that I'm getting from that brand introduction all the way to the purchase, I can look at my overall ROAS. But I just don't want people to get hung up on the ad attributed ROAS, especially within sponsored, because as you move your way up the funnel, people may not be purchasing from that first brand ad, and all the sales are attributed to the last click review. It's the last touch attribution. And so that's where being able to pull these more overarching metrics helps us make a lot better decisions as advertisers overall throughout that journey.
100%. Now, AMC is something that you and I both know has been evolving quite a bit.
Yeah.
Are you excited about any of the latest developments around AMC?
Yeah. So I think this is probably a good time to get into like some specific use cases. So one that you can apply for a lot of different people, almost everybody, is utilizing AMC audiences within sponsored ads. And how this works is you can take different action-based audiences. So whether they previously viewed my product, or if they previously purchased from me, or if they look like a subset of, say, previous purchasers that I've had. What we can now do is we can push audiences to sponsored ads and apply a bid multiplier to say, hey, if I just want to show somebody who's searching for gym equipment, this is my base bid.
Yeah.
But if they also fall within this audience, say they viewed my product before, now I'm willing to pay 50% more. So I'm willing to pay $1.50 for that. And the reason that we're willing to pay more is that those people within these audiences are going to be much higher intent. And so we've had a lot of fun pushing these out and testing them, and we've seen some really solid results, especially in terms of conversion rate. And conversion rate means they see my ad, they click, and then it leads to a purchase. It's been significantly higher in many different use cases because we're finding the right audience at the right time. So this has been a huge development within the sponsored ad ecosystem, because typically our main targeting was either keyword or product targeting. But now if we can layer that audience so we can make sure that our ads are being shown to those people who have the highest intent, it adds a whole nother level of value and a whole nother level of targeting that we can do to, again, make sure we're showing our ads to the right people at the right time.
100%. Love the use case, by the way. A use case I call low-hanging fruit that I socialize around this is, if you look at your sponsored ads campaigns, best case scenario, what have you seen as the best case click-through rate scenario for sponsored ads?
I mean, like, so typical for top of search, you can get up to like 4 or 5%, but it's still a small percentage.
Small percent.
Yep, you get to product targeting, very, very small percentage.
So you've got about, let's go with 5%, best case scenario, right? You've got about 95% of people searching really high intent, lower funnel keyword, but never clicking on your ad.
Sure.
Well, what can you do with AMC? You can actually create a pool of those audiences and then go after them.
Yeah.
So I love that use case. It's gonna, hey, everyone should be doing this.
Yeah.
The other thing you mentioned is, I think, worth reiterating, which is, I think we have seen the evolution from first auto campaigns, then keyword-based targeting, then product targeting, but there is this move to audience-based targeting, where the role of AMC becomes just even more critical, but that's the only place you can actually go custom create audiences.
Yeah.
The other, I just saw yesterday, I think, that I saw a note from the Amazon team that some of the paid data sets are now free for audience creation.
Sure.
So Amazon Insights is one of those data sets, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah, it's just a whole nother level of targeting that you can apply. Yeah, and let's talk through some other use cases. So from AMC Insights, some different areas that we really like to lean into is like new to brand and combining that with lifetime value. And one area where this really applies is for those brands that can drive repeat purchases. And so whether it's a consumable product or you have a really solid brand where you can get cross purchases overall, AMC provides this whole nother level of data that you can get where instead of just focusing on ROAS for that first purchase, we'll take an example. So say I have some supplements that's a $20 bottle. But if somebody buys that initial bottle, they typically come back and purchase 4 more times.
Sure.
Well, that new to brand shopper is not just worth $20, it's worth $100 overall. And so when I'm looking at optimizing my ads and analyzing the funnel, I should take that whole lifetime value into account. And so this is one data set that we can get within AMC that's very powerful. And then if you combine that with new to brand tracking too, and you can figure out what campaign or what customer journey is driving the highest new to brand customers, now it's a whole different set of metrics that you can utilize to optimize your campaigns. And again, it just gives you the full picture of the true impact of your ads versus just looking at that single purchase.
I think, great point, and I like the LTV and new to brand combination. That's pretty valuable, both for measurement and execution.
Yeah.
Also, like as Amazon continues to expand ad inventory, right, from streaming TV, Thursday night football, what have you. I mean, there's only one place all their signals are flowing into, and that's Amazon Marketing Cloud. So my line around Amazon Marketing Cloud is it continues to become the center of all ad measurement.
Yeah.
So important for any advertiser to be building a muscle around this.
Yeah, yeah. And then some other use cases that you can utilize. So if we're looking at new to brand and lifetime value, another fun analysis that we like to do is what's the best gateway product to introduce people to your brand. And so if they purchase a certain product, we can look at their lifetime value. If they purchase product B, we can look at their lifetime value. Maybe product B leads to higher lifetime value than product A. Now what we can do is focus our advertising around that, and again, it'll have a bigger impact. Another one that we can look at is total time to purchase. And this has been surprising to me, looking at the total time to purchase from when somebody is first exposed to an ad
To when they buy.
to when they actually buy. And it's a much higher time frame than I thought it would be. So it's another key piece that, again, before we would use rule of thumb or best practices and we test it, but now we can get the actual data on what's the optimal frequency to show customers my ads. When is the time? How should I layer in the timing of this customer journey? All these pieces are available now within AMC data set, so we're not guessing and checking. We have that information at our fingertips.
Awesome. What do you think of future state of AMC over the next, call it 6-9 months?
Yeah. So they continue rolling out new features. I think one key feature that I'd love to see continue to get developed is being able to easily import other outside data sets to be able to tie them in. So currently we can import like hashed lists. So it's just a list that I have, say, of customers who bought on my D2C site. I can upload that and I can find lookalike audiences. Being able to sync more of that data into AMC and be able to tie all these pieces together, I think is going to be extremely valuable, because then again, we can unlock insights that's not all just based off of Amazon's first party data, but our other external sources, and be able to tie them together in a single coherent advertising strategy. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I like that. And I think what we're all seeing around Amazon Marketing Cloud is there is the ability for a seller or a brand to upload their first party data. And like you said, you can look at match rates, compare performance of your direct shoppers versus Amazon, construct audiences. There's a lot of interesting use cases in that bucket. But what you also see is Amazon continues to add additional data sets into AMC. So the Experian vehicle purchase data was already there. You can actually tie ad media spend all the way down to specific vehicle purchases in stores. There is the Amazon Your Garage data that is now part of the data set. Brand store insights. That's pretty neat. So I think there's this evolution of this ability to add more and more of the brand and seller data, and then third-party data sets. Sure. Again, just the number of signals continues to expand, and hence the opportunity for both measurement and new audiences.
Yeah, and then I think to just expand on how you can utilize all of this. When people look at Amazon, they immediately think e-commerce, but Amazon is also a very large media company. And so when you can utilize all of this first-party data on the advertising side, but then also apply it to all of the different unique content sources that there are, so whether it's Prime Video or all the new sporting editions that Amazon has, Thursday Night Football, Wondery for podcasting, Twitch, there are all these exclusive ad inventory placements too, where now if I can combine the different audience data, and then I can combine that with the ideal creative to show those people, to really speak to their interests and make sure that we're showing the right content at the right stage of the funnel. Now you can complete that full picture. And again, if we're doing our jobs right as marketers, utilizing all this information, the ads are going to be very high value and a good experience for those seeing it too, because it's going to directly apply to their interests. So many different ways that you can utilize it.
Absolutely. Another innovation on AMC that we've seen is the Gen AI based creation of audiences.
Right?
I think it got launched maybe 3, 4, 5 months ago. What we are seeing is that the accuracy of the output is continuing to get better. So you can type natural language text and the AMC console, you'll get back a query to create an audience. Now, it still requires verification,
Yeah.
which means that whoever using it should know AMC reasonably well.
Sure.
But it's a pretty quick way to get these audiences created.
Yeah.
And I fully expect it to get better and better, hopefully get to 90-95% accuracy.
Sure.
Are you guys using that?
Yes. Yep. So yeah, continually new features and additions, and so it's really exciting to see some of these new Gen AI features getting incorporated into the platform.
One of the things I get asked a lot about is just how do you increase adoption of AMC, right? So perhaps we can quickly talk through some best practices.
Yeah.
And when you get asked that question, what are your recommendations for brands or sellers in terms of how do they ramp up their understanding
Yeah.
and adoption?
Yep. So I think the key thing is to start with what is the core question I'm trying to answer. And so you can get overwhelmed by the amount of data that you can really pull from this. And so I think the core thing is first start with the product, start with the business goals, and then build upon that. So based off my products and my business, maybe I really want to drive new to brand sales and try to maximize lifetime value. Maybe I want to drive repeat purchases after the fact to increase brand loyalty. And so I think it's first starting with the strategy, then generating the questions that tie into that strategy, and then at that point asking how we can utilize AMC versus going the other way around, starting with the reports and then trying to figure out how to apply them.
I like the frame, by the way. Let me just reiterate the frame.
Yeah.
Goals, strategies, questions are like step number one.
Yep.
That can lead to what kind of insights and queries you should be running on AMC.
Yep.
I would just add that that will also lead to what kind of custom audiences do you want to create and iteratively experiment.
Sure.
So I like that frame.
Yep.
And that would be a great way to get started. And I've always said that like the quality, the amount of value you're going to get out of AMC is directly tied to the quality of questions you're asking.
Yep.
So I have a word for it, I call it a roadmap, but that is kind of the fundamental thing that has to be in place.
Yep.
I would add that to frame that though, you still need to understand what AMC can do for you.
Yes.
So one recommendation I have is the Amazon team has put out a great certification module around AMC.
Yeah.
If you go to the Learning Console, you'll find it. You may take a few tries to get certified, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You'll learn a lot from the process. So I would highly recommend just getting certified. At least one or more members on your team should go through that process.
Yep, I love it. Yeah, well, I guess just to summarize overall, so if you're just getting started within Amazon ads, first, I'd learn the basics. Start lower funnel, start with sponsored products, and then keep building your way up the funnel. And then when you get to the point where you're really layering on, going further up the funnel, I'm tying in sponsored display, Amazon DSP. At that point, adding on AMC is a really great tool. And when you're looking at it, really start high level with the business. What's the strategy? What's the key goals? What's the key questions? Then get your insights from AMC, and then finally, it's taking action based off of those insights. So, any other things that I missed there?
That's a great finish. I don't have anything more to add.
Well, Srinath, it's always so awesome to talk to you. You're such an awesome dude. Yeah, thanks for sitting
Same
down.
here.
Really
My pleasure.
appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks so much.
Yeah, hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
You too.